Good morning everybody, it is Bridget here from Bridget's Kitchen, wishing you a very happy start to your weekend. If you have just gone into a Saturday like we have here in Sydney, happy weekend everyone. Weekends for me usually involve family, a little bit of cleaning of the house, a little bit of food of course, but mainly about spending time with the people that we love. And what could be more amazing than a weekend which also has a celebration like Father's Day. So tomorrow here in Sydney, in Australia, I also believe in New Zealand as well, is Father's Day. So I thought I would share with you guys this morning my recipe for a very super duper ultra healthy pancake. So these pancakes, by the way, if you like a good buttermilk pancake, you're gonna love these pancakes for a start. But the difference between a normal buttermilk pancake, like American style pancake, and the pancakes I'm going to teach you guys today is my pancakes are gluten-free, they're also sugar-free, and they are dairy-free as well. So they're really good for us and they're super easy to make. So I thought I would share that with you guys today. But please let me know if you're joining me today, let me know where you're coming from. I'd love to know where everyone's coming from today as we go through this awesome recipe for Father's Day for pancakes. I do love a good pancake. I have to say I've been a fan of pancakes, and every single time I travel to, and I have to say, to the US, I'm always so impressed by the pancakes. They're like the size of your head, right? They're huge and they're really fluffy, and I've always been really impressed with how they look. Not so impressed with what they do to my body once they get inside. So they tend to make me feel a little bit heavy. They tend to make me feel not so good. And what I've realized, over the last couple of years, and one of the reasons why I do gut health, is my body does not deal with gluten very well. Good morning to Shirley and good morning to Roseanne joining us. Thank you, ladies. So yes, my body's not too good with gluten. So I'm always looking to find, we got someone else, Miley's joining us from Perth, from WA as well. Miley, do you and Roseanne know each other? You're both from Perth. Early morning for you guys in Perth because you're 3 hours behind Sydney, so thank you for joining me. So yeah, when it comes to gluten, it's one of those ingredients, and gluten, as we know, we find gluten in a lot of white floured products. So think about bread, white bread, or any type of bread, even wholemeal bread or even seeded bread tends to have gluten in it. We also have Annette, thank you, from joining us from Bundaberg this morning. Thank you very much. So we've got gluten as in white flour products, so breads, cakes, muffins, cookies, things that have been crumbed and processed normally has gluten. A lot of our snack food has gluten in it as well. Obviously our biscuits and our cookies. And what I find personally, and oh, hi Nikki, joining us from Tauranga. Good morning to Tauranga. So what I tend to find is that my body lets me know instantly when I've had gluten. So I am doing lots of recipes for us, because it's for me and for my family, but also for us as well, where I've taken that gluten component out of it. And if you were to think about pancakes, you tend to imagine that pancakes are made from plain white flour. So we're going to do a different type of pancake today. And remember, I also said that my pancakes are gluten-free, they are sugar-free, and I've even managed to take the dairy component out of them. That's what's really awesome, is they are light, and they are fluffy, and they are stackable. And if you, like I said, if you ever travel to the States and you've seen these big buttermilk style pancakes, this is what I'm making for you guys today. So they're a great recipe. Yes, maybe you're gonna make them for Father's Day tomorrow. Wonderful. Or maybe it's just you're gonna make it for someone you love, or maybe you're just gonna make it for yourself because it's a wonderful treat and it's such a nice alternative to normal heavy pancakes. So let's get into the recipe. I'm going to bring you down to the bench over here so we can see what's going on. Once again, I've got my scales. You may notice a little bit of a whiz happening in the background. I've actually already got my pan on a very low heat. It's just heating up gently. It's a non-stick. I'm actually going to do it in a wok today because it's my best non-stick at the moment, but you can just use a normal frying pan for this. Non-stick definitely helps because it's going to make it a lot easier for us to tip or twist our pancakes once they're coming in the pan. We need to flip them over. So I've just got that on a really low heat, and it's just going to heat through while we're going to make the pancake batter. So because I'm going to make it directly onto my scales, which is so easy, I put my bowl straight onto my scales here, and then I just go and I zero it. And zeroing it, most scales will have this function. When you zero it, it takes it back to zero even though we've already got this bowl on. So now I can start weighing. And the mixture is actually really, really, really simple. So I'm using a gluten-free flour, plain flour mixture. You could use a combination of flours. You could use some corn flour. You could use a little bit of buckwheat flour, or anything that doesn't have gluten. So like I said, I'm using a gluten-free flour. And into there I have put 280 grams of flour, which is around about 10 ounces. So 280 grams of flour. And by the way, before you ask, this recipe is only available on this video because I've never made it before. This is well, I made it this morning and a couple days ago, but this is the first time I've actually had this recipe go live, just in case you're wondering. So 280 grams of plain gluten-free flour is in here now, which is about 10 ounces. The next thing I'm going to do is take up some baking powder, and I'm going to use 1 teaspoon of baking powder. My teaspoon. It's going to go in, and I'm also going to add in half a teaspoon of baking soda or bicarb soda. This is what's going to give our pancakes, helps to give, along with the baking powder, a lovely rise. So that goes in there as well. I'm throwing in also just a pinch of salt. Remember, we always say salt helps to bring out the flavors. So we're adding just a little pinch of salt is going to go in there. And remembering that this is a sugar-free pancake recipe. So I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of sweetness with my inulin powder. But the other reason I'm adding inulin, and I'm adding in 2 heaped tablespoons of inulin powder, and the reason I'm adding in inulin is I've now just added fiber, soluble fiber to these pancakes, so they're even healthier for us, and they become a prebiotic because that's what our inulin powder is. So we've got that in there as well. Give that just a bit of a stir, and thank you to Julie for loving my recipes, my video recipes. Good morning to Tamara as well. So give that a little bit of a stir. I'm going to add just a little bit of, no, that's all the dry. So we've got my flour. I've got my flour in there, 280 grams. I've got 1 teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of baking soda, and 2 heaped tablespoons of inulin. That's our dry ingredients. So I can now move that off to the side, because the next thing I want to do is to start looking at the wet ingredients, and I always keep these separate. So my dry ingredients is here. I'm going to actually do my wet ingredients into these 2 bowls here. And for our wet ingredients, we're going to be using 2 eggs. And what you need to do with the eggs is we're going to separate them. So that's why I've got 2 bowls here. So just cracking them in half, and then using my thumbs, I'm going to gently break them apart like that, because what I want to do is separate the white from the yolk. And the best way to actually do that is just to transfer the yolk from one side to the other. And once that's done, we can put the egg white into one, and we can put the yolk into another. I've got a little bit of yolk in there, and the best way, if you do get a little bit of yolk in your egg white, the best way to get it out is taking a clean eggshell and just put it in there, and would you believe that the yolk is completely attracted to the eggshell, and now I've just got pure white. So I've taken all that little mistake I made, it's completely gone from these bowls now, which is great. So we're going to do that one more time so you guys can see it in action. So taking up your egg, crack it in half using my thumbs. I'm just going to separate it very carefully, and then I'm going to once again carefully transfer the yolk and the white between the shells. So I've got yolk in here, which now goes into one bowl, and I've got pure whites in here. And you'll see very soon why I wanted those whites to be pure. Alright, so working with our egg yolks first, we're going to continue adding our liquid ingredients. And for me, I'm adding a little bit of apple cider, about half a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. That's actually going to help our baking soda to activate. That's why we're putting that in there. And then liquid-wise, it's up to you what liquid you use. Because this is a dairy-free version of these pancakes, I'm actually using unsweetened almond milk. You can also use coconut milk if you like, but I find that unsweetened almond milk is actually really delicious. Tastes pretty good. Works really well with pancakes. So back again, it goes onto our measuring our scales. I'm going to zero it again. I'm going to change the mode, because I had it in grams. I'm going to change the mode to milliliters, which measures liquids. And I'm going to add in quite a bit, 580 mils of unsweetened almond milk. This is, by the way, this makes a really decent amount of pancakes. This is a really, really, really good recipe. So 580 mils of almond milk or coconut milk or oat milk or macadamia nut milk or whatever milk you want that is non-dairy, then goes into there. A little bit of a whisk. You just want to make sure the egg yolk is mixed through the almond milk there quite well. And that is the liquid portion done. There's only one more thing that I need to do to that, to the ingredients before we can start to combine, and that is I'm actually going to take, remember those egg whites that I put into another bowl? They need to be whipped up. So the only thing left for me to do now is to whip them up, and I'm just going to use this little machine here, which is electric whisk, and I'm going to whip up my egg whites like I'm making pavlova or meringue. This step is really important, and yes, you can do it by hand with a whisk. Obviously this is going to be a lot faster and going to use a lot less muscle power, so you can use one of these. But what we're doing is we're whipping up the egg whites so they're really stiff. That is going to help to make our pancakes lovely and light and fluffy. So I won't be able to talk much, it's going to make a bit of a noise, but here we go. Shouldn't take too long with this little gadget. And what we're looking for is stiff peaks. Already I've got soft peaks, so this here is called soft peaks. You see it's still a lot of movement in there. I want it a little bit stiffer than that. Show you we're progressing. Not quite as thin as it was before, but I'm going to go just a little bit further. Now, do you see that? And when I push the whisk through, the egg white actually holds its shape. So you get these little peaks coming off it. That's what you're after. This is stiff peaks. And what we have done here with all that whisking is we've incorporated air into the whites, and that is going to make our pancakes lovely and fluffy as to being dense and stodgy, which is what we want. So that's perfect. Let me just get that little guy out of the way there. There we go. So going back to my liquid, here it is. This, remember, was my almond milk and my 2 eggs. I'm now going to add in just a little bit of coconut oil, and I'm putting in 60 mils of melted coconut oil is going to go into here. I put about 70 mils of coconut oil because I'm going to use that, the remainder, to actually grease the pan. So that goes in. All we need to do now is take our liquid ingredients and mix it into our dry. So you could make a well in the middle if you wanted to, completely up to you. Just tip it all in there. Make sure we get all that egg out. You don't want to waste any of that egg yolk. Make it very rich and lovely and creamy. Taking up my whisk. Remember, this is a batter, so it's going to be quite liquidy. You're not making a dough like you're making bread. Remember, it is a batter, so it is going to appear to be a lot thinner than if you were making like cookie dough or a cake mix. But you'll notice, even as you begin to whisk it up, I'm just trying to get rid of the lumps here. As you're beginning to whisk it up, it is already starting to just thicken ever so slightly. So you're not making soup. It's not as thin as soup, but it's also not thick like cake batter. You see, that's the consistency we're after. So give it a good whisk, get rid of all those lumps. When it comes to gluten-free pancakes, you don't have to be too concerned about how much you whisk it, because there's no gluten in here, so it's not going to make it all stringy and sort of gluey, because we've actually removed the gluten portion, which is great. And now that I've done that for a little bit, look, right? It's really thickened up really, really well. So I'm going to incorporate now those whipped egg whites into the mix. But the type of method that I'm doing with this, I'm not going to whisk it, because I do not want the air to be knocked out of this, because this is all the hard work of whisking it. So I'm actually just going to fold this in. So the egg whites go in, and literally this is the hardest part of this recipe. It's just knowing why you're whipping the whites, and because you've incorporated all that air, you're going to get light, fluffy pancakes. So the worst thing I could do now is actually whip the daylights out of this, because I'm going to release all that air that we've trapped in the egg whites. So best thing for me to do is to move on to a wooden spoon and then just gently fold the egg whites through, making sure that we don't lose any of that hard work from whipping the egg whites, especially if you whip those egg whites by hand. You definitely do not want to knock out all the work by just being too rough at this stage. So it's a gentle folding with a wooden spoon or a spatula. You go under the bottom, you fold it over, just like that. And do not worry that you've actually got a little few lumps in there. Lumps are good. I'm happy with that. I don't want to overwork it. Remember, we want to keep those egg whites really light and fluffy. Because what then is going to happen when we start to cook our pancakes is we're going to get a lovely rise out of it. So now I'm going to bring you guys down this way. Let me get rid of that. That's annoying me. I'm going to get rid of that machine. I'm going to bring you down here. Alright. Because I want you guys to look straight into my pan as we're doing this. Okay, I'm going to straighten it up. Whoop. No, that way. There we go. You guys can see straight in there. Okay, right. So I have this. Remember, I had that on medium heat. It is a non-stick pan. If you've got one, really, really good idea when we are making pancakes that we do use a non-stick pan, because that's just going to help us with the flipping action. So I'm going to I've just got it on low. I'm going to now put it onto medium heat. And then remember, I had that little bit of coconut oil left over that I had melted. I'm going to use a brush rather than tipping it, because then you get a lighter coating. And just a pastry brush, I'm just going to run that over the edges or around the edge and on the base of our non-stick pan there. And then depending on how big you like your pancakes, I do find that 2 tablespoons, like heaped tablespoons, is a really good portion per pancake. And look how much we've got here. You can make heaps and heaps out of this, like literally out of this recipe. It is such a good one. But you can already see that our pancake's not flat, so I was able to really easily spoon the mixture into the base of the pancake. So this is the consistency that we're looking for. See, it kind of just drops off the spoon like that. So you want to resist the urge right now to do anything. This is the time where you might go put on the jug, put on the kettle, start making a cup of tea. Or maybe think about the other things that you're going to be serving with your pancakes. And today I've got a couple of examples for you guys, which I think will be just amazing. But don't stray too far from your pan if you can. Or have it like, for me, I always bring one of the kids, and I'm like, you are in charge now of keeping an eye on our pancakes, because you really do need to stand next to it and just observe what's going on. Because every cooktop is different, and even though I can do mine on a medium heat and it works well, you might find with yours, depending on what you're using, you might be using gas, electric or induction, it may take a little bit more getting used to. So stay close to begin with, so you know what's happening down the base. Look how easy that is for me to just, with my little spatula. And by the way, this spatula is my favorite. I'll show you why. It can do this. It's so flexible and it's really, really thin. So it's really easy for me to get under there, just like that, and have a look. So I'm just looking at the base now, having a look to see what sort of colour we got on the base. And we got a really nice colour. And by the way, the coconut oil there smells amazing, because that's what we're using, of course, to cook our pancakes, and it smells really good. All right, so I'm looking at it. I'm pretty happy. I'm going to take the chance of flipping. You see that? Good, huh? And you can, I mean, you guys can see how fluffy it is as well, right? Look how fluffy it is. So you want to cook it for, depending, like I said, depending on the type of cooktop you're using, and also depending on the pan you're using. But in general, the rule of thumb is you're going to be cooking it for about 2 minutes on one side, and then flipping it and cooking it for another 2 minutes. Obviously, because I'm using a wok, by the way, I can only do one of these size pancakes at a time. You might have a larger frying pan, and you might feel comfortable to do 2 or even maybe 3. But you know, just take your time, get used to it. I always start with 1. My first one is to test the heat of the pan, and then I'm testing the cooktop as well, just to seeing how long it takes, what sort of response we're getting from the pancake mix. And I have to tell you that we are getting a really, really good response from the pancake mix this morning. It's wonderful. Now this type of mixture, because there's egg whites in there, you have to cook it straight away. This is not one that you can make, leave it in the fridge, cook it the next day. all the air will have been knocked out of your egg whites and you will get flat pancakes. You'll get like griddle cakes. We want to have fluffy pancakes. So this is definitely one that you do as soon as you've added the egg whites. What you can do is you can mix all the ingredients, and then just in the morning when you want to make pancakes, you whip up the egg whites and fold the egg whites, and you can totally do that. But once you've added egg whites to this mix, you must cook it straight away. That's definitely a little tip for you guys, because I know, you know, breakfast, if you're making it for dad's breakfast, you know, you might have other things also that you're making and you want to be a little bit organized. So you can be, look at that, you can definitely be a little bit organized and get the mix happening the morning before, the night before, and then you just add the whipped egg whites. You whip the egg whites in the morning and add that to the batter. All right. So Christina's just asked, can you repeat what you do with the coconut oil, please? Coconut oil, 60 mils of the coconut oil goes into here, and then I keep 10 mils aside, and I just use it to brush the pan, and that's what we're using as the to cook our pancakes and get that wonderful color. So remember, I'm adding 2 heaped spoonfuls of mixture to the pan, and if I had a bigger pan, I'd probably do 1 more here and 1 more there as well. Up to you guys, you decide what you want to do with that. But we're just going to give it 1 more go. I have noticed I have not changed the temperature here. Everything is done on medium, and because I'm using a brush to apply the coconut oil, I'm not getting a pan that is sickly with oil. In fact, there's just enough in there to moisten the pancake. Make sure that we get this lovely golden color on it, as opposed to it being a little bit burnt. So if you're thinking, I don't have time, I need to do this quickly, unfortunately, if you want to get that type of color, medium heat is the best. If you add too much heat, you will get them dark and uneven in color, whereas what we're looking for is a real gentle, even coloration across the pancake. And because it's a real fluffy version, once you're coloring the outside of the pancake, it needs time to cook through in the center as well, so it's not doughy. Hence why a little bit longer is definitely more ideal than a little bit shorter. So I'm going to have a little look how it's feeling. Remember, a couple minutes on either side. Good. Whoop. Flipping. If you do like me, so you've got a little bit of a mess, just push it back into the pancake. It'll all come back around. Don't be too worried if you make a bit of it. If they're not perfectly round, that's okay as well. Like, you know, this is all about flavor. If you do get lovely round ones, good on you. If yours are a little bit on different weird and wonderful shapes, that's good too. Still going to taste right. Still going to taste good. So a couple minutes on that side. I'm now going to show you how I would serve my pancakes. So come back up here for a little bit. What I have today is, I might bring you back down here so you can see. Ooh, I've got you on a little bit of a move. How good is that, right? On a little bit of a trolley today. So the way that I like to serve my pancakes is I like to definitely make a stack. Short stack, long, tall stack, completely up to you. But I like there to be a bit of a stack. And because then you get a little bit of height, obviously, and height is really, really good. And there's a couple of different ways that I like to serve these. Of course, they're going to be sugar-free and dairy-free and all that sort of stuff. So one of the ways that you can serve your pancakes is I have some berries in here. So these are just frozen berries, mixed frozen berries. I put the frozen berries into a pan like this, put it onto medium heat, and in about 6 or 7 minutes later, what you get is the most amazing liquid that comes out. There's no sugar. I didn't add any water. This is literally frozen berries put into a pan. You bring them to the boil. The minute they boil, you take them off the heat, and then what you get after, you know, for not much work, is you get that wonderful juice that comes out of your berries. Plus, your berries are not mushy. They hold their form, and they're just wonderful. So you can add berries to it. Let's see if this is ready, shall we? Oops. Ooh, looking good. Nearly there. You can add berries, no sugar. If you wanted to sweeten it up a little bit, add a little bit of inulin to your berries. Just a couple of tablespoons of inulin to your berries will just help to give it a bit of sweetness. If you want, you don't have to. But the way that I like to do these pancakes, and imagine they've got like a stack of 3 or 4, just like that, is I like to take up a little bit of fiber syrup, which is our sugar-free alternative to maple and honey. And it's a prebiotic and it's a soluble fiber, so it's going to give us a little bit of sweetness. And then I add some berries on top there, and of course some of that liquid, which is going to be wonderful. And then just to finish it off, because at the moment the berries are a little bit tart because they're literally just berries that I put into a pot. And just to finish it off, just a little bit of icing sugar. Oh, sorry, looks like icing sugar. It's inulin. A little bit of inulin powder sprinkled over the top of our pancakes and our berries, and there you have a beautiful gluten-free, sugar-free, dairy-free treat for anyone, but also especially for Father's Day, which is tomorrow. So a absolutely happy Father's Day to all the dads out there. A happy Uncle's Day to all the uncles that look after kids out there, to all the grandfathers, to all the fur dads, to anyone who looks after someone else with love and absolute unconditional respect. These are for you. Make them for someone that you love. I guarantee you, you will absolutely adore them. Alright guys, have a good time tomorrow. I've got another recipe to share with you guys tomorrow morning. You can even make that one for Father's Day as well. Until then, take care. Bye.